Hey everyone, this is Jebro, and today I know maybe it's a bit late in the day to be making this, but I want all the metal builds on my channel, and it's very useful for you to have, and even for you to see what the changes have been between the metas as well. This is for Season 2 of the Pro League and what top players are playing, and I've had to go for a happy medium because there's a few different things that people do use as well as trait lines. So Necro obviously is very strong at the moment, very strong in terms of chill, damage, vulnerability, and generally conditions, as well as corrupting enemies' boons into conditions, which is one of the key highlights as well of the Necro. So let's have a look at the build for a start. It's not going to be a massively long video because you probably know a lot about this in the first place, especially if you play Necro. But Scepter and Warhorn, Scepter of course does convert a boon into a condition, even just on the third hit. Now I can't show you really that on the Golem, I can show you what on an NPC, but you just have to trust me in that, and it definitely does it. But obviously, you know, a pretty vital weapon to have, and then Warhorn obviously gives you the daze, which is unblockable there as well. And then we've also got Locust Swarm, which is going to give you some swiftness, some cripple, as well as the extra little bit of damage that gives, as well as life force, of course, which is going to be good for your Reaper Shroud. So obviously the rest, you know, we've got bleeding, cripple, and then we've obviously got torment as well. So it's a good weapon set to have. Obviously, staff is just, you know, it's standard. You wouldn't run a necro build without it. You know, you've got too much, you know, utility. You've got fear. You've obviously got chill coming in as well. Your gain of life force, your condition removal, your bleeding, your vulnerability stacking, your extra chill there, as well as bleeding and regen, and the fact that these marks are all unblockable via your traits. So very important to have these weapon sets in your mix. So what else have we got here? Now sigils are obviously going to be more up to you, but we've got Doom there, we've got Hydromancy to get the extra chill, as well as some more bleeding, and we've got leeching as well. So that's going to obviously help in terms of your sustain, just getting a little bit of extra health. And then we've got Rune of Nightmare, of course, as well. So 50% chance when struck to cause fear for 1 second. Obviously, you know, extra CC. And then Mercenary's Amulet, which is one of the newer amulets. It's not brand new. Giving you power and condition damage as your main stats, which is a really good mix, which is another reason why Necro has become, you know, very useful through this amulet. As well as some survivability through toughness and vitality, of course. So, he raises his hands. Enjoy. Let's go through the build, have a look at the traits. There's options. We're going to go Soul Reaping Smite and Spite, and also Smite Reaper as well. And there is a couple of different changes. You can, of course, go for another trait line as well, which I'm going to talk about in a moment. But mainly, we're going to talk about these trait lines right here. So Reaper and Soul Reaping are going to be the main trait lines, which are used mainly all the time. And then you got Spite, which can be changed out. Let's have a look quickly at the actual trait lines. So Soul Reaping, obviously, we've got Gluttony, so increases life force gain from skills. Obviously, life force is going to increase your Reaper Shroud. Then we're going to go to Soul Marks. So marks generate life force when triggered, and marks are unblockable. So that's your staff marks here. Those being unblockable, really important in terms of, you know, able to get your damage off, able to get, you know, your control effects through fear off, able to get things like, you know, chill, also your regen and condition removal through the fourth one as well. And that's very strong. So obvious choice for that one. Then we've got Last Grasp, that gains spectral armor when your health falls below the health threshold. Now Necros, if you play ranked queue or you play PvP at all, Necros are normally the prime target, and this is a good source of, you know, staying alive, gaining yourself that protection as well. Then we've got Vital Persistence, so life force drains slower while in Shroud. Shroud skills recharge faster. It's just a given, you know. Reaper Shroud is very important for your survival and for your offensiveness as well. So you need to, the more you've got that, the better. And if it's slower, then your skills recharge. You can get fear and stability off a lot more as well. Strength with Undeath, you do more damage while above the life force threshold. Maximum life force increased. So the threshold, where's the life force? The 50% damage increased to 5% and maximum life force increased by 15%. So obviously, again, for the reasons I said before, very important. And then Shroud skill 1 inflicts burning on your target. So of course when we're in Reaper Shroud, just go into Reaper Shroud so you can actually see. Just stick them above the legs. Ain't got a body to worry about. Just have a look. You can see burning inflicted there as well. And that stacks up quite heavily actually, to be honest. You can see the amount of damage coming out there. Okay, so in Reaper Shroud you can see when I go in my first skill, the burning obviously pretty good there. 330, the stacks just pile up every time I press the first skill. Every time you do, get a stack of burning. Which is, as you can see, quite a lot of damage. Just double check that actually. Your target golem, burning 1.7k. That's ridiculous. You can do so much damage in Reaper Shroud, it's ridiculous, even just by pressing the 1 key. But yeah, that's that. Anyway, showing you that, let's just go out of Reaper Shroud because we're going to have this again to show you. So Shroud skill generates might as well, as you did see when I was hitting that golem. Bitter chill, so chilling a foe inflicts vulnerability. So obviously, you know, just use chill there, and immediately inflicts vulnerability as well. So obviously, you know, that's very powerful in terms of how much chill you do get off, because when you're putting chill on them, they get vulnerability, and that stacks up and exponentially, which is ridiculous. And sometimes people just use some Condi removal just to get rid of that vulnerability stacking, because you've got like a Revenant that's coming in as well, and he comes up to you and tries to burst. Then that vulnerability is just exponentially horrible, especially in team fights as well. So that's, and if that chill is AoE as well, remember you're inflicting your vulnerability in an AoE manner. Inflicts vulnerability when you strike a foe below the health threshold, deal more damage while downed. Obviously, you know, more damage in terms of a vulnerability is, again, stacking that vulnerability on your opponent, which is important. Chill of Death, cast Spinal Shivers on the foe when attacking them while their health is below the health threshold. And Spinal Shivers, chill your target. There we go. More invulnerability stacking. Brilliant. And remove up to 3 boons. So obviously, you know, 20-second cooldown there as well on that. So it's, you know, again, helping you to sustain damage on your target, removing their boons and inflicting vulnerability. So very powerful. Then gain might where you strike a foe below the health threshold. So again, we're gaining might through this tree. Remember, you know, a lot of people going for Signets of Suffering, and some people still do, because they do still, some Necros are even running 2 Signets here. But at the moment in this build, it's just the 1. So they're not going for that, and instead they're going for Spiteful Spirit. So cast Unholy Feast when entering Shroud. And that is a cripple on nearby foes, and convert their boons into conditions. So obviously, you know, like I said before with the Scepter, we're converting those boons into conditions, and it helps your sustain in terms of damage even further, converting those boons into those negative conditions, of course, which only helps your damage and helps your, you know, you don't even need to think sometimes about the fact that you're corrupting the boons on your opponent. Because it's always happening pretty much through Necro and through that build. So let's jump into Reaper line here. And some people go between Chilling Nova and Augury of Death, or it's mainly Augury of Death now as well, because you've got so many shouts coming out. You've got 3, so they reduce recharge of shouts, and your shouts siphon health and gain additional recharge reduction for each foe they hit. So you can see there, you know, life siphon, as well as the recharge reduced by 10%. And the reduction per foe is 5%, so that's very key as well. And we've got Suffer, so damage foes around you and chill them, so the extra chill, which is why I kind of hovered over it before. And also the transfer of conditions, which is very strong for your own survival, as well as, you know, getting extra damage off. And then you got Rise, so damage foes around you. Summon a Shambling Horror plus additional horrors near each enemy struck. Shambling Horrors absorb damage for their master as long as they are attacking. So when they're attacking and the damage is coming onto you, they absorb some of that damage. So that's some of your defense there through this utility as well. Unblockable, it says. So chilled to the bone as well. Extremely useful. You're seeing this being very powerful in team fights, especially when you want to finish off your foes. You put this down, and it freezes all enemies around you, inflicting conditions on them, and gain boons for each foe you freeze. And then we got some stability there. You can see the amount of vulnerability stacking through, and that will happen on chill as well. and you can see the stun is for 2 seconds, and that's for the entire team fight. You know, if you're in a 5v5, all of your opponents will be chilled and stunned, and that is a very, very powerful. It stops the momentum of the other team, let alone the fact that you can use it to finish off your opponents, and is a very strong ability indeed. Of course, we do have Plague Signet. The passive, of course, transfers conditions from your allies to you, and then, of course, when you have a ton of conditions on, you can send them to your foe as well. So you've got a lot of Condi transfer, boon corruption of foes, removing conditions from yourself, like I said, through transfers as well, and a ton of damage through chills, inflicting vulnerability in team fights. You know, if you put vulnerability on your foes, you're going to be able to get some chill as well. So sometimes, you know, chilling Nova critical hits against chilled foes cause an explosion that puts chill onto adjacent foes. Still pretty good, but people are going for this life siphon more through the shouts and whatnot as well, because the shouts are, because we've got 3 of them, you know, the recharge of shouts is very strong and very much needed. So the build is very good. It's very, sometimes it can be extremely interesting in terms of survival for the Necro, of course, because, you know, they're always the main focus because they're so impactful in terms of their damage. I'm just building up some life force to go into Reaper Shroud here. But yeah, it's a pretty fun build. I'm not like the best Necro in the world, and I'm not got the experience of like the gameplay and everything else, you know. Definitely go to Twitch and watch like people like Noscog playing the build as well. But people do have variations. Of course, people do sometimes, of course, go into, you know, curses and whatnot as well. Namely, mainly Texby as well, as using uses that as, and Wanderers, as far as I remember. Yes, he does indeed. He's very effective in that, but that will be another video where we talk about that. There are options, of course. If you go for more signets, you could go for signets of suffering there. But yeah, that's pretty much the build. Let's just have a quick look again into Reaper Shroud and go over those abilities. Remember that Soul Spiral is ridiculous in terms of inflicting poison, especially in, you know, fights as well. We've got more chill and the vulnerability stacking, as well as also grabbing yourself the stability and then clicking the button again to give yourself a fear on that 3rd skill, and then of course Death's Charge as well. Great mobility ability as well, as doing a ton of damage. You can see the amount of vulnerability that just stacks up through the Death Shroud, as well as giving you a lot of burning. Again, being very powerful for the Necromancer. So, very basic instructions about this build. The build itself as well. Nothing too heavy. I'm not going to mention any combos or anything like that. It's just literally talking about the build. And yeah. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you didn't, let me know. If there's anything you think that I could have mentioned which I didn't. Again, this is a very, very basic guide. These videos aren't massively in depth. They're very short. They're just here to give you the build really as well. But in future I will hopefully talk about this more. Of course, in the second half of Season 2, this build could change through balance patches and whatnot, as we have the next quarterly update. See even how much damage that chill actually does there. It's just saw a ticker 477. But thank you for watching this build video. And again, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. I've been Jebro. See you on a future cast or future video. Take it easy. Hello one and hello all. It is Jebro, and I am here to give you some commentating while I get ruled in the face by a thief/mesmer combination over on the quarry. Now,